What is up, YouTube? Today we got a special little video for you guys. It's actually going to be a legend account review. It's been something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and especially with now that I'm a little bit more in tune with the competitive community, and I've fought against a lot of these players who have very unique account builds. I figure it's a good time to showcase some of them on YouTube as well. So on screen here, we are going to be speaking with Ellifton through Discord. I'm not on his account, just for the record, okay, in case anyone's wondering. But yeah, we are going to have Ellifton. He finished rank 4, technically rank 3, but rank 4. We'll say he's rank 3 Hall of Fame, all right? And he's, I think he's free to play, but we're going to have a quick conversation with him. So without further ado, let us go ahead. Alrighty, Elliftons. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for, the short notice on doing the account review with you and, posting it on YouTube and all that fun stuff. Congrats on your finish for rank 3, brackets 4. But what are your overall thoughts for the past season that you just played?
My thoughts on the meta, I think overall it was fine. Every playstyle was playable. I think the main outliers were Hersetti and Flan for sure. I think those two units are definitely the worst in the game.
For sure. And I know you did switch a lot of your pre-bans throughout the season, trying new stuff. And when you did have the Flan and Hersetti open, what were your thoughts and feelings about that?
Okay, I never had Hersetti and Flan open at the same time. I think Hersetti, there's a lot of RNG. Like every unit can go first. It's always random. You never know what's gonna happen, which could be fun but at the same time frustrating. Like personally, I didn't like it at all. As for Flan, I think Flan, you can play against her if they slow down, but Flan Cleave is legit unbeatable, because if you pick Solitaria into Flan Cleave, you're just down a unit and you're gonna get fucking rolled over and die.
100%. Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people on ladder did start kind of banning the Flan. I know that's why a lot of good players did.
It's also not fun to play. Like every game is solely on 3 versus Flan. It's zero entertainment.
100%. Yeah. So another question before we hop straight into the account review. What would you say were your top 3 units of the season for you, ranked from top to bottom?
I'd say these 3: Wukong, Haste, and DDR.
And any specific reason for these 3?
Okay, Haste is just the goat of anti-aggro, anti-cleave. Okay, anti-cleave not necessarily, but he's the goat versus aggro. DDR legit picked him every game. Not because I think he's that insane, but just because I don't want to fight him. Fighting DDR as turn 2 legit feels miserable. As for Wukong, I think he's not that strong, but he's pretty fun to use. I like him.
I mean, especially in a lot of the matchups where they have a lot of death pen stuff like Laia and Blood Moon Haze on the opposing side. Definitely saw you picking that a lot and winning a lot of matches, right?
And sometimes he managed to lose against only defense pen units. I didn't know that was possible, but somehow he outdid himself.
Right. Okay, well, let's hop straight into it. I'll let you lead the way with all the units. I might hop in here and there, ask you questions, but just take it away with whichever way you want to start, element, speed, whatever.
I'm just sorting by CP. So first of all, we have Milim. I don't think there's much to say about her. You just want her to kill Celine. You want her to be slightly fast because you don't want to get outsped by random stuff. Just some random gear. Don't think there's much else to say on book. Next up we have Celine. I think this unit definitely has a place in the meta as a 4-5, maybe even 3rd pick if you're on 2nd pick. But if you're 1st pick, don't pick this before 4-5. It's really bad. Your opponent can counter you in so many ways, it's just not good.
Yeah.
I think she's good against Lua. If your opponent picks multiple non-attack skills, she's also good. Overall, pretty solid unit. But I kind of hate playing her, first of all, because my artifact is plus 18, and there's a 20% chance I lose the game. Also, her S2 is random, you never know what the fuck she's gonna go on. Sometimes she can go on the tank, and you're practically down a skill.
Yeah, great point. And a little question for you too, because I know you farm a lot of Banshee, and right now you're farming Golem. But knowing that you have some really good Banshee gear, Would you say that because you have a plus 18 artifact, you decide to kind of prioritize her less on the gear side? Because your damage is definitely a little bit lower compared to other Celines that we've seen in the community. So just kind of curious about.
No, this is not by choice. I have a lot of Banshee gear, you are correct, but it all has HP and attack. It's Bruiser gear, and Bruisers are kind of dead right now. As for pure DPS gear, I have barely any. My best gear is... This is my second best set after Jenua, I'd say. And
I see.
it looks depressing, not gonna lie.
I see. I've seen enough. Okay, awesome. I just had to ask. All right, continue.
It's not by choice.
Noted.
Next up I have S10A. I think this unit is terrible. I just have her built for like the rare 1 in 100 match. She's on book, obviously. Nothing special. Some bulk, some attack. I mean, it doesn't matter how much attack you give her, she does 0 fucking damage. Like, her whole use is just having a book and a unit that can't die unless your opponent has AoE.
Agreed.
But honestly, like, unless you don't own half the mages, there is always a better book out there. Like, you should never pick this unit. Like, there's always a better book.
Right.
Jenua used to be pure DPS, but he did 0 damage anyway. Like, my gear is shit, so he did 0 damage anyway. So I just decided to go on FRES so that I can pick him versus Luna. The reasoning behind this is usually they go Luna, I take Belian on 3, and then they'll take LRK. So if they take LRK, I can pick Jenua because I have some FRES, and then I won't die to Luna's CO, and my Jenua can fuck them up pretty much. That's the whole reason why I switched to FRES. And ideally I would want more FRES, but I think if I put any more FRES on him, my attack would start with a 2. And if my attack starts with a 2, I think I might as well not even pick this unit.
Yeah, that's yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Also, my wind rider is plus 18.
I'm almost speechless. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm speechless looking at this Jenua, but I mean, he
did his job. He did his job.
That just means that your finish was even more impressive. That's the key focus here, right? So carry on.
Okay, next up SSV. I think this is pretty average. One of my better builds for sure. She's on Chatty, obviously. I didn't pick this unit much, maybe a bit towards the end with Kong, but overall, I almost never picked this.
Definitely a really good set, though. I can see like you have really good bulk to survive a lot of hits. Yeah.
Okay, next up is the GOAT, Wukong. Probably one of my most picked units towards the end. He was really fun. As for strength, I wouldn't say he's that strong, but he's definitely a fun unit to pick. And him swinging his stuff is honestly pretty cool. His animations are really good. He's on Sigurds. I think, okay, before the buff, Golden Rose was better. After the buff, I'm pretty sure Sigurds is going to be his best in slot artifact. And I'm using the S2E. I used to use the S3E, and 20% is a lot of damage, but I kind of value the survivability more, especially like sometimes it gets crit in random spots, and 10% extra anti-crit is pretty good. Also, like once you stack up your S2, which gives you 60% attack, honestly, you're probably killing anything in the game. So that's why I decided to go with the S2E.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you think about it that way too, because I know a lot of players, myself included, where going for the S3 damage to kind of nuke one unit out of the game to play 3v4, right? So
here's my reasoning. I don't think I've ever picked Wukong and the game has ended in Frenzy 1. Every time I pick Wukong, I'm slumming it out in Frenzy 4, Frenzy 5, Frenzy 6. It's legit 6-minute games. And that's why I just stack up the S2 and play for the S3 Wukong after that.
No, it makes total sense. Yeah, that's great insight. Good point.
Then I have this guy. I built this guy. Ideally, I would want to be kind of faster, but I ran out of gear. Also, the effectiveness is worthless, but I didn't have anything else. So I built this guy when my opponent goes Lua and Frida. And you can't pick anything with ER because they'll just soul burn the Lua. And so in that case, I'm just picking Laia and Hyundai on 4-5. That way I don't have to deal with Lua provoking my whole team.
Makes sense.
Okay, Senya, I almost never picked this unit. She's on spare gear. Like, she's on Bastion. Sometimes picked it versus Cleave, but overall, I stayed away from this unit. I don't think she's very strong right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's like all free gear, so yeah, you definitely didn't put anything premium on her.
Yeah. She's on the bottom of the barrel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I built this towards the end just to kill some rats. almost never picked it. Also, I was kind of scared to pick it because my touch is plus 15, so there's a 25% chance I lose the game. Also, she's kind of slow, but when I pick her, I always have a cleanse like Laia or Luluca or something else, and I can also push her up, so I don't really need speed. I'd say her gear is alright. She can kill Choux if I get the attack buff, and that's good enough. With no mid. Obviously, I'm picking this if my opponent has no mid. Okay, AOL. This is the second unit along with Jenua. I used to pick AOL and Jenua, like I said earlier. If my opponent goes Luna and LRK and I have Belian on 3, I have efforts on this so Luna can't seal me. So I would go like AOL and Jenua on 4-5 if they go Luna plus LRK. Ideally, I would want to be on book, but I kind of ran out of books, so I'm just using the second best artifact, which is Spirit's Breath.
Okay.
Okay, next up, Tenebria. She's a book. I used her with Lua. If I have Lua and my opponent goes something like Acades on 3, I picked books, and this is one of the main books I picked versus that because her S2 is really good against Acades because it gives restrict, and she also has a pretty good S3. Decreased defense and sleep is kind of pretty good. So I just picked her versus that, but mainly because she's a book, nothing else.
Wow, that's a really interesting build because I think not a lot of people would even consider playing with Tenebria. They prioritize things like Silver Blade or Requiem, stuff like that. But this, you make a great point about running it into Acades on the restrict, right? So that's really good. That's really cool.
Okay, next up is Elvira. I don't really have much to say about this unit. I don't think I picked her at all. Like, she definitely has some potential as a 5. For example, if you have 2 debuffers and your opponent's only cleanse is Lilibet, you can pick Elvira on 5 and they kind of have to ban it. But outside of that, she's useless because Candy is dead, Yufien is dead, ML-KARIN is dead. I mean, actually, ML-KARIN has never been alive, but yeah. She's pretty much useless, but I have her on some random gear, just in case.
I see. Yeah, it looks like a pretty standard Elvira, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really need much more FRES. Next up, Zio. Ideally, I would want to be faster, but I have no gear. He's on a DPS build. I picked him sometimes. I think he's probably one of the top 3 books. I think the top 3 books are probably Luna, Zio, and ML Roana. I picked him when I needed damage in a book. And also, like, sometimes you can push back Laia, and then Lua provokes his whole team before Laia can even cleanse, which is pretty good. I don't really need effectiveness because I think F-checking is kind of cold. Like, even if I had 200 effectiveness, I wouldn't want to pick this versus something like Acades because, there's some people running Bastion of Hope 300 ER Acades, and I don't want to fight that and just break my fucking monitor.
Right, of course. I mean, another great point about what you said about pushing back Laia too is, especially when you're playing the ML Lua, like you said, with the books, and some people were playing, their Monk slower than their Laia, and this kind of eliminates that, right? By pushing the Laia, messing up the tuning so that you can kill off one of those units. So just to add on to that.
Yeah, you're correct. Next up is Conqueror. This unit saw a lot of play towards the end. If your opponent early picked Lua, I think she's pretty strong versus Lua as one of the openers. Ideally, you would want to be faster, first of all, and on Sweet Miracle, but I only have one Sweet Miracle and it's on Laia, so I decided to go for an ER build. So the reasoning is, you first pick Ilynav and your opponent goes something plus Lua, you can go Lilibet plus Conk on 2-3, and it's really hard for the Lua player to respond to that. That's pretty much it. Obviously, ideally you would want to be faster and more bulk, remove all of this FRES, and on Sweet Miracle.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the budget way of kind of approaching ML Lua as the Conk player if you don't have Sweet Miracle, right? So I think a lot of people did end up switching to this. I know Wind Demon as well had this built. Basically anyone who didn't have an extra Sweet Miracle. So yeah.
Yeah. Next up, Choux. I picked this unit a lot towards the end. I wish it was on Sweet Miracle, but again, I think the ideal build is probably around 250 speed and 30k HP if we include Sweet Miracle, so here it would be like 27. I think, okay, towards the end, I know a lot of people were negative about this unit, but I think she actually was pretty strong. Obviously, she farms noobs, okay? Like, let's be real, she farms noobs. But Yeah, I think she was good. I don't know about my build though. I think this build is not that good.
I definitely think if you had Sweet Miracle available, your build would improve tenfold,
Yeah,
as
I
it
would give
would
it a
with
better. I would give it a better build.
100%, 100%, yeah. But I do 100% agree that Choux was really overlooked throughout the season, but towards the end, when the meta was getting super tanky, she was definitely really strong when you had the good some good supports around her.
Yep. Okay, Karina. Okay, this build is back from when I had Flan open. I don't think I've picked her a single time since I started pre-banning Flan, but she's built. You know, maybe my opponent picks 3 fire units or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think this unit fell off a cliff. Like, she's completely worthless. Unless you have Flan open. If you have Flan open, you can pick her sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, she had her time in the sun, right? And that time's far gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, Solitaria. Same thing as Karina, but I built this towards the end because there were a bunch of people going solo carries SSB for some reason, and I would pick my ungeared Solitaria and they wouldn't ban it. So I lost a few games like that. So I decided to just fuck it. I'm gonna give her some random gear because I've had enough.
Yeah, you'd be surprised, right? Like you would think people would ban the must ban unit, and they end up banning something else. It's great.
Yeah, they just ban Myth or something.
Yeah.
Next up, Luluca, probably the best cleanser along Belian. To pair with Belian, I mean. I'm on the Freed artifact because sobering your Belian turn 1 is pretty big. You can like cripple the enemy team. Slow debuff plus mischance is really huge. And also, I don't think you need any other artifact. Like Ice Pistols is nice, but you have defense buff, you have Ice Cream Cone. You don't really need more healing. You just wanna kill your team, kill your opponent as fast as possible. So I'm on Frida's artifact.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the speed, by the way, is intentional. You kind of want to be slow because you don't want to, if they have 2 openers, for example, you don't want to cut in between their second opener. You want them to press all of their buttons and then cleanse.
Mm-hmm. I'll pop a diagram up on the screen in the video here. But what Ellifton is kind of talking about is, for example, they have like Luna and Emma Lua, for example, 2 units that also are quite fast. But if you're running, say, like a 240 speed and you cut in front of one of the openers, and they're like buff stack for whatever reason it is, and they rip another debuff after, then your turn is kind of wasted, right? And I do want to highlight as well. I mean, this is kind of like some, I would say, quote unquote, like technology that you kind of made towards the latter end of the season. Like, what gave you the kind of idea of putting Ocean Breeze Luluca on this sole artifact? Was there a specific game or a certain day where the meta shifted a bit where you were like, I need to kind of change something up?
No. So here's the thing. So I gave the second Ice Crystal to Schneel back then, and I was looking at. So I am out of Ice Crystals, right? My first Ice Crystal is on DDR, the second was on Schneel back then. So I was just scrolling through. I was scrolling through my artifacts, and I was like, all of this kind of sucks. And then I saw this artifact, Frida's artifact, and I was like, 10 souls. What if I used the Soulborn on Belian? And I thought, like, holy shit, that's a fucking genius idea. And so I gave her this artifact.
I see.
Basically, I was just scrolling through the artifacts and it came to me.
I see.
Hey, so next up is the aforementioned Belian. Her build is honestly one of the better on my accounts. She's on counter set, but she's kind of fast because taking turns is really important for Belian.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of just want speed and HP. She's on 3F, the most broken artifact in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And she really killed aggro towards the end. She was really good against aggro towards the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like this is a really good build, right? 30k plus is really good.
I've seen AB with my stats plus 300 defense.
We've seen enough.
Okay, this unit next up, I almost never picked this, but the reasoning behind the build is if my opponent picks like 5 debuffers with no ignore FRES, I would pick this and just I've checked them. But I almost never picked it. I tried it once versus Luna Monk Laia, and my problem is she's too slow and she's 200 speed. But by the time she takes a turn, like what can I even do? If I push up my DDR, he's not even gonna take the turn before the Monk's second turn, so Monk would just slap him and then silence him anyway, so it's like I did nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely so like a 1 in 100 unit, right?
Yeah, only if they go like 5 debuffers with no ignore FS, something like that. Aria, I think this unit is really good in the village, but I almost never picked it. Outside the village, she's not that good. Like there was one game I picked it versus Jenua and I won, but that's about it.
Fair enough.
Monk next up. I'd say an average monk. I made her slower than Laia. I think everyone did. And she just has a lot of effectiveness. Nothing special. Okay, next up Lua. The best opener for turn 2. I mean, after Luna. Luna is just too broken, but for turn 2, this is the best opener after Luna. I just made her fast, 100 effectiveness. I mean, it's not by choice. I just gave her the fastest gear, and whatever the stats are, that's what I'll take. I'd say she's really good against pretty much everything, honestly. Like, it just depends on what you're picking her against.
I mean, I think one specific matchup that a lot of people were struggling with before she came out was like Sea Phantom Politis. And I think this character kind of gutted that draft very hard towards the end, and people who weren't adapting definitely were having a lot of trouble for sure.
Yeah, I think that a good demo poly player is still gonna beat Lua, like if the Lua player is slow. But for the worst players, I'd say Lua destroyed them, yeah. Next up is Laia. I'd say this is a pretty average build, just 250, 260 speed, and the rest in HP.
Can you self-imprint that and see what your HP looks like?
29.4.
Very nice.
This is definitely the best cleanser in the game, and she also enables debuffers because she resets their cooldowns and just makes the game hella annoying for everyone. I don't think there's much else to say about her.
Yeah, very standard Laia, yeah.
I think she's way stronger after Senya release as well. She's probably gonna see even more play next season.
I 100% agree. Because you can just kind of freely pick Laia early, right, and have the Senya backup against any AoE, right?
Like if MO Politis is pre-banned, you're not even scared of getting aggroed or something because you can just slam Senya on 3 and then they can't pick any AoEs or they're fucking dead. Because that's wonderful design, honestly. Next up is Luna. Ideally, I would want to be like 300 speed, but I can't make that, so I just opted for 250. In that way, I can go after Laia or most cleansers and fuck them that way. I'd say this is pretty average. I'm on book. I think Etika Scepter is... I don't think it's good. I think just book is the best artifact in every situation.
The most consistent, you would say, right?
Yes. Yes. Even in Village, I think book is the best artifact.
Yeah, I think one thing to point out as well is that's the power of like Emma Luna is you can have her at basically any build tuned for any specific reason, and she'll just shine either way.
Yeah, her kit is just way too good. This thing being on 1 turn cooldown is screaming. Anything else to add? I don't think so. Okay, Lilibet, I'd say this is average. She's okay, so her best, she's best in Village, but even outside the Village, she's good against debuffers. She's really good with Conqueror, like I said earlier. You can pick Lilibet Conk if your opponent goes Lua early, and it's really hard for the Lua player to play. I think immunity is really good on her, but I didn't have any gear left, so I'm on defense set.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why, to add to your point, why Lilibet is so strong with units like Conk or Ilynav is because you can kind of stack the defense buff she gets if they do press their buttons, and then you have the 30% from Vigor or whatever buff you have, and it just increases her damage by a ton.
Yep, a ton, yes.
A ton, yes.
DDR, the GOAT of turn 2, obviously. I just put him on 220 speed with Giga Bulk. Like, I don't care about anything else. Honestly, I try to pick him always on the first 2. Not because I think he's broken. He has a lot of answers. I mean, he has a lot of answers, but they're all shit. That's the problem. Like, he has a lot of answers, but none of them are actually good, and fighting DDR as turn 2 just feels miserable, so I just picked him every game. Let my opponent deal with him. Fuck you.
that's really good insight as to why you pick him.
Like, honestly, I'd rather my DDR just press S1 the whole game than having to fight DDR.
Fair enough.
Edward, just standard anti-cleave. If my opponent presses, they die. Nothing else to say, really.
Yeah, this is what we call a red rocket, so just full damage.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know why he's on Pencil, because I had nothing else, probably. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Schneel, I think this unit is insanely cool. Like, he does not beat DDR.
Okay, would you say with the new Senya coming out, would that change your mind?
With new Senya, he's probably better. I mean, I would have to play to know, but this season, so I checked my stats on last day. I was 15-3 versus Schneo.
I see. And you always had DDR.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I would much rather be on this side than on this side, and ignore this build. I don't think any build matters. Like, I never picked this unit. That's why it is on some random shit.
Fair enough.
Okay, Winter, I had this geared versus Laia. You can Lua S3 and then Winter goes and stuns the Laia for 2 turns so she can't cleanse. I think Fire Kawerik is better, but I don't have him, so I'm stuck playing Winter. She's on nothing special, just 100% crit chance and some speed. The artifact doesn't matter.
Fair.
Okay, next up Arcades. So this is my anti-Luna Arcades. She has some Efres and a bunch of bulk. Like, the main thing is speed and bulk. I used to be on Eternus, but I switched to Ice Crystal because towards the end I just said, whatever, I don't want to cut, I'm just gonna tank whatever my opponent does, so I just switched to Ice Crystal.
Nice. Good adjustment.
ae-KARINA Ravi, she's built, but I don't think I've picked her once this season. I don't really have much to say about her.
Yeah, I was looking for Destro set because you're 342 crit damage, but you're on counter, so that's... I see.
Like, I never picked this, but it was built, just in case. So this is my first Eda. This was my guide to a decision. I picked this versus Cleaver sometimes. Like, it's really good. Also versus ML Poly, it can be good.
But did you have the experience of it being really inconsistent with her pushing back stuff when she did have her buff?
I mean, it's RNG, right? If your opponent has run, you have to strip the immunity, you have to push back. Yeah, it is RNG, but you should win most of the time, as long as you cut. Okay, next up, Ilynav. Probably everyone... Okay, I would say Ilynav is in everyone's top 3 most hated units of the season. I don't think that's a hot take.
I think that's a good take. I think it's everyone's least favorite and favorite at the same time.
I mean, it depends. Like, so I think Karsetti and Flan are definitely up there as well, so I wouldn't call her the most hated, but I would say she's in the top 3. This build is honestly absolute ass, but I couldn't give her anything else I couldn't give her anything better without stealing gear from other units, and I didn't really want to steal from anyone. Like, I would have to steal from Lilibet, and I don't want to steal from her. So I just gave her whatever I could. I would much rather be lower crit damage and higher HP, also with immunity, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty high damage build. With 315 crit damage, I mean, that's definitely on the higher side compared to a lot of other people.
Yeah, I would much rather trade damage for bulk.
Like drop 60, 70 crit damage for like 3k HP kind of thing?
Yes, and immunity if possible.
Right.
Also, I know a lot of people played Adamant Shield. I think both artifacts are really good. Personally, I like Rise more, but I can see both artifacts seeing play. Okay, next up is Freedom. Okay, so I build this when my opponent... So my opponent is playing ML Politis. I go Lua on 3, and then they go Belian on 3. In that case, I would pick this on 4-5 just so I can guarantee my Soulburn, because if my opponent is doing Politis plus Belian, they're probably full ER, in which case I just wanna Soulburn my Lua, that way I can cripple their whole team. That's basically why I built her. Next up, Ruele. She's just on some random gear. I think the most important thing is speed and some bulk, right? Like, I think you really want speed, at least for my playstyle, because you're usually playing her against stuff like Laia Monk. So being able to take turns is important, otherwise you're just gonna be reset for the whole game. Artifact doesn't really matter. I think she has nothing that's beast on her. I think you can put a lot of things on her. I'm on Idol's Cheer just because, like, if my opponent presses Monk S3, I can push whatever is my highest attack, which is pretty good.
Right. I mean, Idol Cheer is definitely not a terrible option, though, I would say, just because some people in their comps, they'd have to try to rush her down, and with her Spirit Lord protection, it just makes her a little bit more annoying, right? Depending on the CR, but yeah,
I agree, but I've never seen someone rush Ruele, honestly. I don't think I've seen that once in my whole season. They usually leave her for last. That's why, honestly, that's why everyone hates Ruele. You're just sitting there playing a Frenzy 7 game. Bidom, okay, I never picked this unit. She's on random gear in case I have to pick her at some point, but I never did.
I can see why you didn't pick it though, because there's a lot of wasted stats.
This is like 350 gear score, I think.
Yeah, it might be less.
Oh, I mean, if you don't count the crit chance and crit damage everywhere, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, Arcdemon. Okay, this is the first protection book. So I had a bunch of protection books built for my Lua because, you know, I'm 300 speed. I'm most likely not taking turn 1, so I just want to buff stack my Lua and soulburn her. So the main reason why I built Arcdemon is because in Politis comps, there's a lot of good CO targets. Like ae-KARINA is a good CO, Jenua is a good CO, BBK is a good CO, ML Senya is a good CO. Like there's a lot of good units you can CO with this. So I made a prot Arcdemon for that reason.
And to add on to this point too, I think some people on YouTube may not kind of realize, like they might be thinking, oh wow, prot Arcdemon, but what Ellifton is saying is because he's playing ML Lua and he has immunity, if you're buff stacking stealth from Guiding Light immunity and also the protection set from something say like an Ameru, unconventionally to say something like a Bastion a-Taiwan or Bastion Senya where people can kind of easily spot it out, you're kind of covering both bases with this build, right? You have the book, you have the prot set, you have the buff stacking all together, so it just synergizes very well.
Yes. As for stats, I just gave her whatever I had. I think nothing really matters. Like she's not gonna get focused. Some HP is nice. I mean, bulk is nice, right? But whatever you can give her is fine. I think speed is the most important. Speed and HP if you can. Nothing else really matters. Okay, next up is Yufien.
Oh my god.
I'm really sad about this unit. I think even before Mort, she was pretty weak. Like there were a lot of counters to her, but after Mort, she completely fell off a cliff so much that like I'm just now on prot set and just hold on, I guess. Like against Cleave, the only reason you ever pick her is for the S2, the combat readiness decrease, so you don't care if you counter or anything. Like for you to beat Cleave with counters, you would need to counter every hit, and sure, then you can win, but that's a really low win rate play.
Yeah, I think another point to add on as well is a lot of people that were playing Cleave and when you did pick the CR manipulation on 3 into Cleavers and people would auto slam Mort, right? Having the protection Aureus, right? Not caring about the Mort, not wasting a post ban in praying for Elbrises and stuff like that, right? So just to touch on that as well.
Yeah. Okay, this is my second Luluca. I almost never picked this, but I had it built in case I need to cut, because right, my other Luluca she's 200 speed, she's really slow. If I want to cut with her, she won't cut anything. So I made this second one. Like if I need to cut something, like let's say my opponent goes Conqueror Lilias plus Gala. So with this build I can cut the Gala and then just silence and miss debuff her. But I almost never pick this. I think it's really rare. But I had it just in case. ML Roana, I'd say this is pretty average. At some point she was on prot set as well, but I ran out of prot sets, so I went back to attack set and whatever I could give her. Ideally I would want more effectiveness, but it is what it is. Her main focus is just to give bulk, right? I think that's about it.
Yeah, as you were about to scroll onto this character, I thought this might be on prot set or on some crazy build, because I know you've been farming Golem for a long time now, but maybe the next time we look at your account, maybe we'll see it then.
Yeah, it used to be on prot set.
I see.
Okay, so next up, the GOAT himself, the most cancer unit in the game, POV Haste.
So I guess I'll ask you a few questions, because obviously I call Blood Moon Haste Ellifton when I play Blood Moon Haste, right? And the specific reason is because it just doesn't die, you can't kill it. And I know a lot of people play counter, they play Celestine, some even play speed and Ido Cheer. You know, what kind of made you decide to put it on triple HP on Proof of Valor?
Because, okay, if you pre-ban Hersetti, every game is gonna be most likely versus aggro or cleave. And versus aggro, your opponent is gonna pick stuff like BBK, Jenua, Gala, and like they're gonna pick nukers, and you need your case to live. Like it's kind of hard to pick mitigation. Like you don't have much space to pick mitigation, so you want like something that just can't die and do a lot of damage. Like if your opponent kills the thing is, your opponent can't focus anything other than haste, because if they focus anything other than haste, he's just gonna proc his S2 and then bring back the whole goon squad. And also kill one of your units at the same time. So I just made him really tanky on POV, in that way he can't die against most teams.
I see.
But if you okay, I will say, if you don't pre-ban Corsetti, his best build is by far Counter Celestine. Like in the village, Counter Celestine is just way too much value.
Yeah, because you could just kind of like full heal all the damage that they're outputting, right?
Yeah. Okay, police. This is the second prot mage. So it's basically the same reasoning. I mean, slightly different. So her main job is to CR cut. If your opponent goes something like Poly Frida, Poly Veronica, her job is to CR cut them and also buff stack your Lua and bring book.
I mean, this is really good tech too, because similar to what you talked about in Ameru having the prot set, but this is kind of like the other use case where you still slam the Lua, where you have that speed contest, but you're worried about being pushed back. You don't have to worry about that at all with having the prot set, so this is really good tech.
Yeah, my main use for her was, first of all, if your opponent goes Ran, you know, like Ran gives 2-turn immunity, right? So if you have Poly on your team and Ran presses S2, then Poly S2 goes and this decreases buff durations by 1 turn, which makes the Ran S3, the Ran S2 worthless, and your Lua can still strip. And okay, the main unit I was picking this against was Frida, because if your opponent goes Poly Frida, they can push you back, push their team, and you're gonna die before you even take a turn. But if you have Poly on your team, that's kind of hard because you reduce their CR gains by 50%, so your Lua can still take the turn.
Would you say you were extremely comfortable? Because I know there are some Fridas out there that were very fast, right? And so, like in the 290 plus ranges of the Fridas, right, which might still cut in front of your Lua. So, how comfortable were you in picking this into something like that matchup?
I was very comfortable because I'm not planning on cutting the Frida. Like, it doesn't matter if Frida goes before my Lua. Honestly, it's better if Frida goes before my Lua, because sure, Frida is gonna cut, but he can't cut after Frida. Like, Frida is gonna push 12%. Like, let's say they have a BBK. BBK is gonna be like 210, 220 speed. Sure, Poly goes, then Frida goes, and Frida is gonna push like 12%, but that's not enough. My Lua is still gonna go before the BBK. So honestly, I would rather go after the Frida, because that way he can't even cleanse his team.
Right.
Like, the reasoning isn't to cut Frida, it's to not let Frida push something between your Lua.
Right. It's to not let Frida enable the rest of the comp. Right, you don't mind if the first and the second turn you get skipped, right, and he gets rage or whatever, but because of the fact that you're able to disrupt that third, fourth unit, right, is where Poly is really crucial. Makes sense.
Okay, and here is the next protection mage.
Oh wow.
Also on book, same reasoning, protection, same reasoning. Okay, so the main use for Prot Eda was if my opponent goes something like Celine. In that case, I don't really want to press. I mean, depends. If I have haste on my team, I'm pressing. But if I don't have haste on my team, I don't really want to press my Lua because I activate Celine and that can just kill my whole team. So then I would have Eda, which can also just cripple Celine. Like I give her unbuffable, silence, decrease defense, and which is really big. And that's mainly what I was using her for. If my opponent goes Poly plus Celine.
Wow, that is some tech.
Okay, next up, Xiarmin, my only knight after Yufien. Actually, no, there's three. I used to be on protection plus HP set, but I switched to immunity because, I mean, you need immunity on this unit. I'd say this is a pretty average build. The defense is slightly high, but the HP is pretty average.
You know, for some of the more casual players that watch this video, can you kind of, I know you touched on it, like, you know, oh, you wish you had, you know, Ilynav on immunity and Carmen having immunity. Can you just maybe tell the people watching why you feel like immunity is really important for units like this?
So there is a lot of units in the game that don't strip but have annoying debuffs or like other effects. For example, Lilibet S3. Like, if you're playing Ilynav or Xiarmin, you can see Lilibet, and like if she S3s and increases your cooldown, that feels really fucking bad. Like, if you're randomly getting debuffed by Lilibet, it just feels awful. Also versus ae-Tywin, like stuff like ae-Tywin, he doesn't strip, but his debuffs are insane. Stun plus defense break, that's like 2 of the best debuffs in the game. So if you have immunity, you don't have to worry about that. Also, if you have immunity on your units, you can play Candy and buff stack, which is also really good. Like with Candy, you can have 3 buffs, and most units in the game only strip 2, so they wouldn't strip the immunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to add on to that, I mean, you made a great point, right? Like making sure that these units that have a really important first turn, right? Carmen having the immunity and the invincibility, Ilynav having the guaranteed cleanse, right? Not losing to death breaks and stuff like that. So immunity, I think immunities stocks have just kind of gone up and up and up after season. Would you agree?
Yes, I also want to add on, I just remembered, because I pre-ban Hersetti and Flan, but if you don't pre-ban Hersetti or Flan, you kind of want immunity on every single one of your units. Like Hersetti, if you get defense broken turn 1, that's really bad for you. And for Flan, like, she can also defense break you turn 1. Both of these units can defense break you, and if they defense break something important, you're just gonna lose the game. So you kind of want every single one of your units on immunity.
100%, I agree.
I forgot about that because I pre-banned both of them.
Same.
Next up, Roana. She's just on some random gear. Like every time I picked her, she was post banned.
Is that an intentional +6 or?
I ran out of next, so I just gave so I got a random rift drop and I just gave her that. I +60 and I put it on her.
I see.
It's not intentional. Like the thing is, every time I pick her, she was post banned, and I almost never picked her. Only if my opponent goes something like MLK wrong.
This is a crazy necklace, I gotta say. That's all I'll say.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, I've never seen this unit in the game.
Fair enough.
Always post ban.
Fair enough.
And honestly, she looks fine. Wait, she looks fine. Like it's not that bad.
Yeah, she looks great.
Next up, another Aureus Knight. Protection, Aureus. I'd say her gear is all over the place. I just gave her whatever I had left. So I picked this mainly versus Cleave. Like if they go something like Ran, if your core team is on immunity, Ran can't defense break anything. Because you're gonna have 3 buffs. You're gonna have protection set, you're gonna have anti-crit, and you're gonna have immunity. So Ran can't do anything.
Yes, great point.
And that's the end. Everything else is just PvE.
I see. Everything's PvE? Okay. So I guess we'll move on to the question segment first. But before we do the questions, I just want to say your run was quite impressive, and obviously thank you for a lot of the guidance that you've provided. Not just me, but I think a lot of people in the community will very value and appreciate your help, since you're very open to helping. With that being said, few top questions that we have. As a turn 2 player, do you think still having some speed or any speed deterrence is important?
Yes, I think the strongest playstyle is turn 2 with some speed. I think that's the strongest playstyle in the game.
And can you elaborate on why you feel like that is the strongest playstyle in the game?
So first of all, turn 2 is very consistent. Your plan isn't to debuff your opponent or to kill them turn 1. Like you're just tanking. Like it's way easier to tank than it is to kill. So if you can just tank, you're probably gonna win the game. Furthermore, if you have some speed, you can like being able to pick an opener that's like 310 or something. Like, it's really good. You can go like Lua Zeo, and like you can still play turn 2. You can have like Ilynav haste, and then you go Lua Zeo if your opponent's committing to, I don't know, to random shit. And that way, like, they can't do anything. Like, they have to answer your Ilynav and your haste, but they also have to pick cleansers or like speed up even more with imprints. Like if they want to take the first step.
Right, just kind of being super versatile, right? Being able to tank all their damage, or also kind of having the speed threat to force them to, kind of pick their poison in how they want to die in terms of the post ban, right?
Yes.
Understood. Another question from the chat. What are your thoughts on missing a certain ML5 light knight hero?
Fuck light knights. Fuck all of them. They're all shit. Except Yarman.
For those watching this video, it's a meme that Ellifton did not have a Tywin for a lot of the season. I think you have a Tywin now, though, right?
Yeah, I have him.
Right. You have him.
Yeah, it's bugged. Don't worry, I have him.
I see. Okay. What are your thoughts on the Golem hunt? Do you feel like Golem hunt is the second best hunt after Wyvern right now, just for prot set alone? Because we saw a lot of protection sets on your heroes. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, for turn 2, it's hard to say. Honestly, I mean, Rift is the best for gear. Like, that's hands down, Rift is the best for gear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think turn 2 can survive by just farming Banshee and Golem.
Mm-hmm.
If you're turn 2 and you have one fast set, that's enough. Like, you need one fast set, and you're pretty much good to go. After that, you can farm Banshee or Golem or whatever else you want.
I see.
But obviously, if you want gear, you should farm Rift.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Rift is the best way to get the overall gear for sure. What are your thoughts on the previous balance patch? Like the change they made to closer, like all the changes that are coming in the balance patch. Like, have you thought of any any use for some of the tech that you have on your account for next season with the balance patch or anything like that?
So first of all, I think Archdemon is very strong. Like, she's gonna be very strong. I think she can kill a lot of units. Like, Seal into a dual attack can kill almost any DPS.
Mm-hmm.
Then Pirate Flan, I think she's the same unit. Like, it's kind of disappointing they didn't do much with her. I looked at Angelica. I honestly think she has potential. Like, cleansing 2 debuffs, you can pick that versus Luna, and depending on your team, it can be pretty good. What else was there? Closer Charos, I'm not sure. He's an aggro unit / cleave. That's outside of my expertise.
There's
Secrets buff.
there's
I'm
also
really excited for
Elagos.
this. Oh, Eligos. I'm gonna lie. I haven't even read his buff.
Okay, yeah, you were saying.
I was saying I'm really excited for the secrets buff. Like I said earlier, after the buff, I'm pretty sure this is Beast artifact for Wukong, and honestly any bruiser. Like right now, the Beast artifact is probably Golden Rose,
Mm-hmm.
but after the buff, it's secrets for sure. Like 20% attack for free is like a lot.
Would you advise people to buy Sigurd Sight out of the powder shop right now if they have an influx of it?
If it's in the powder shop, yes.
Okay.
Obviously, like spend within reason. Like if you have 200 powder,
Maybe not.
You
Oh,
can
yeah.
you can buy one, but don't go buying like 5 cigarettes.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. What are your thoughts on running effect resistance on your units? We noticed that you kind of chose bulk over ER on a lot of units, kind of unconventionally to how some other people would think about turn 2, right? Kind of having like a good mix. What are your thoughts on kind of maybe just like the ER stat overall on the way you build your characters compared to having like more bulk?
So I'll start off by saying, like, if you're gonna build ER, you need to make your whole account ER first of all. Like the only units I have on ER are these two, Jenua and AOL, and like I said, I just picked them. If I have Belian on 3 and my opponent goes Luna LRK, I can pick these two on 4/5, which are really good. But overall, if you're going ER, you need to make your whole account balanced around ER, and I don't really want to do that. Furthermore, I'd say like it's pretty fair to say all of my gear is shit. If I start building ER as well, it's gonna turn in even more shit. Like I'm losing stats that I already don't have into ER. So that's why I hate the ER stat. Also, like for most units, if you're gonna build ER, you need to go like 200 plus. Otherwise, you're not gonna resist anything.
Yeah, because like the monks of the world are already 200F, right? So totally. So you obviously played throughout the season. You played a lot of great players. Who would you say maybe just like 3 notable people on the ladder you feel like you had the most trouble fighting throughout the season?
AB, Lunel, and the third, like KHM was hard, but I didn't fight him much. I think I barely fought KHM. Let me think. Who's the third? So AB and Lunel are definitely top 2. Who's someone else I fought a lot? Wait, I need to. Let me look at the. Wait, do you have a screenshot of the legend ranking?
Somebody in chat might have it. I can try to see if I can find it.
Like my top 2 are for sure AB and Lunel. I'm not sure about the third. I would give it to KHM, but it's kind of unfair because I barely fought.
Right, maybe like different time zones. Maybe you didn't fight against him, right?
I mean, usually if KHM is playing, I'm watching his stream. I'm not really playing.
I see. I will post it in our Discord call so that you can let us know who you feel like was hard to fight.
Okay, let me look at it. Oh, I see. I would say Elf Mage. I'd say Elf Mage this season. Like last season, I was pre-banning Emo Politis and Emo Luna, so I won like every game versus him. But I'd say he's really strong with Politis. Like the thing is, most people like go Politis plus damage, but like every time I fought him, he went Politis plus debuffers, and I just fucking can't beat debuffers with Politis. So I, like he farmed me a lot.
I see.
So top 3 in order would be Luneo, AB, and then Elf Mage.
I see. So some other questions that are not from chat now, kind of just some things I've prepared. So I'm kind of curious, like what was your kind of like mindset or strategy going into, you know, every season? Because you have been playing for a super long time, but what is your primary kind of strategy or mindset going into the season, and how do you typically adapt as new heroes comes out and the meta shifts?
So my strategy throughout the season is just to have fun. Like this whole season, okay, let me start. Okay, I'll break this season down into 2. Before Mort Hersetti Flan and after Mort Hersetti Flan. So before Mort Hersetti Flan, I was just playing Yufien and just having fun. Every time I lose, I would like look at what I lost to and what I could have done better. And then like, can I build something different? Can I change my builds? Can I draft differently? If I post ban this, what would happen? So I would think like that. But like mainly I was just trying to have fun. Like, sure, maybe Yufien, I would say even before those units came out, she wasn't very strong, but I was just picking her because, you know, winning the game because you Elbris 5 times in a row, like that was pretty fun. not for my opponent, but for me that was peak. And then after Most Mercedes Flan, I was mainly thinking, what should I pre-ban, and like how do so Yufien was dead. So I was just trying to see like what do I pre-ban to have the most fun? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, all of those units were absolute aids to play against. And with, honestly, like, it's not fun playing Solitaria. It's not fun relying on speed RNG with Hersetti. Mort is not strong, but it just prevents you from picking anything that's counter or Elbris. And which is honestly, I would say that's not good game design. Like, yeah, I would, yes, losing to Elbris is not fun, but if you're losing to Elbris, I would say that's okay. Unless you got Elbrist every turn, I would say that's skill issue.
Got it.
There's stuff like Monk, like you can pick Monk. There's stuff like Jenua, like there's a lot of units that counter Elbrist. They made like, so much stuff that counters Elbrist and Yufien. Candy has like 30 counters, by the way. You can pick legit anything and it would counter Candy in the current season. But yes, unless Yufien is countering you every turn, which is okay, I understand. If Yufien has S3 turn 1, it's probably absolute bullshit to fight against. But outside of that, you can pick debuffers, you can pick counters. I would say Elbrist was not strong.
Right. I see. Now, so, yeah, do you have anything else to add?
No, I was gonna say, what did I skip something from the question? Because I don't remember the whole question.
No, I think the first part you answered was great in terms of how your kind of mindset, in terms of how you play, how you adapt, things you could have done better, right? So I think that was kind of the main question for the most part that I think the audience will get from. My next question is, obviously throughout this review, you said, you know, my gear is shit, like my gear sucks, this okay. Missing this, right? How important do you think gear quality is versus, say, team synergy or like drafting knowledge, in your opinion?
Okay, before I answer this question, I want to say I'm saying my gear sucks, but I'm comparing to Wales and Hall of Fame players. I would say my gear, like if I had to rate it, I would say it's in the top of the Emperor. I would say it's like top Emperor gear. It's not legend quality, but it's definitely top Emperor. But yeah, I'm saying it sucks because I'm comparing to Wales basically. So next up, you asked, is gear important or is draft more important? That's it, right?
Yes.
So I would say if you draft well, a winning draft is gonna win most of the time, even if you have shit gear. Like the draft is way more important than gear, unless it's speed. If you're playing aggro versus aggro, the faster player, they're probably gonna win. Like I'm not an expert on aggro, but I have a feeling if your opponent is faster, you're kind of fast. So their gear is definitely important. But outside of that, like obviously, like gear is not useless. Obviously, if you have good gear, you're gonna win more than if you have bad gear.
Mm-hmm.
But a winning draft is more important than good or bad gear.
Right. I totally agree. I totally agree.
I
As long
think
as it's not to sorry, go ahead.
I will say though, missing units feels way worse than bad gear. Like if
Mm.
you're missing units, sometimes some matchups are next to unwinnable unless you like make unholy text. I remember last season against Laia first pick, I used to go Christie on 3 and then just draft a bunch of VR units. Because last season, you know, they go Laia and then they go Monk and other Cancer. So I was to play Christie on 3 plus a bunch of 300 FRS units, and that draft had like 0 win rate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like 20% win rate. And obviously, like the optimal draft was if you see Laia first pick, you go DDR A Tywin. But I didn't have A Tywin, so I went for some cheese tech with Eda, which didn't work a lot.
Mm-hmm. So I only have 3 more questions. The third question that I have for you is, compared to previous seasons, obviously this is the highest finish that we've seen you, make in the RTA ladder. What do you think really kind of separated, the maybe last season or previous season compared to this season to where you were able to kind of push your rank so much further?
So I would say, first of all, last season I didn't push for Hall of Fame. I got rank 10 and then I just stopped playing. But I'd say I'm missing a few units this season, but I have a decent roster. Like, there's nothing I can't beat with my roster. Like, I have my roster is ready for anything except. Okay, I will say if I'm opening Corsetti, there is units I can't beat. Like Ilynav first pick without LRK and A Tywin feels really tough to fight. But with my pre-bans and my roster, I can fight anything comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main reason. And also, I'd say the player quality has kind of gone down. That's also what I want to add.
Right. That's unfortunate. The second last question that I have. This is a question that perhaps we should have asked you much earlier, but a lot of people in the community do recognize you as like the free-to-play beacon of light. That even if you're free to play, you can do it as well. Are you truly free to play?
Yes, I have $0 spent in this game. I don't know how to prove it to you, but I have $0 spent.
There you have it. All right. So final question. What advice would you give to like other players who are trying to maybe not say reach Hall of Fame or legend, but just kind of maybe hit their goals of being champion or emperor or legend? What advice would you give them in terms of anything from account building, unit building to account management? What would you say would be some of the top things you'd advice?
I think the first thing you have to do is decide. Okay, before doing anything else, you need to decide what are you pre-banning. Like that's the number one step. You decide your pre-bans and then you build your account starting from there. So you want to look at your account, like see what units you have, see what you don't have, and then you decide, I'm pre-banning this, and that's from where you start building your roster. After that, after that is just building your units. Right? Like I don't think there's much else to say. Like obviously you make a roster, you play, you lose to something, then like you think, can I change something? Can I change my build? Can I change my artifact? Can I change my draft? And then like next time if you have something changed, you should win.
Mm-hmm. So kind of like deciding your pre-bans and then playing games to adapt your roster after that.
Yeah,
right?
And the important thing is you need to learn from your losses. Like if you're not learning from your losses, you're just gonna lose to the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like some things, if you're missing units or your gear is bad, like some things you're probably not gonna beat no matter how much you struggle if your opponent is good. But like you need to realize that, right? Like if you're losing a match because you don't have a certain unit, you should just accept it. Like the game is a well game, but most of your losses can be prevented with like better draft, better in-game decisions. Maybe you fucked up somewhere, like you never know. And just changing your builds, changing your draft. Maybe try a different post ban against the same opponent next time. Like maybe that's gonna work. You never know.
Okay, that makes sense, right? Getting your pre-bans, playing and adjusting, kind of looking to improve every loss and seeing where you can make changes makes sense. I guess this is my final question before I do my thank yous. What are your thoughts on Emma Huayang, as she is going to be coming out very soon? What do you think about her, and how do you think she may or may not shift the meta?
So I will say she's either gonna be OP or absolutely useless, and it all depends on her S3 damage.
And that S3 damage, would you say, if it's able to kill, say, your Carmen on your account on turn 1, do you think that that would be considered like too broken?
If it can kill Carmen, if it can kill this, it's probably broke.
Okay.
If it can kill something like Ilynav, I would say she's pretty good. If it can kill something like this, I would say she's good. If it can kill this, I would say she's broke.
Say if you can kill Ilynav with no mitigation, then she's okay. But if you can kill through,
I think she ignores mid.
Oh, yeah, she does ignore mid with Soul. Well, yeah. Even with Soulburn, maybe she could kill Carmen. Who knows?
And if she's killing Carmen, fuck me.
Okay, well, the floor is yours. Those are all my questions. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you'd like to say to all of your supporters in the chat right now?
Thanks to everyone. I mean, I don't have much to say. I will say I did learn a lot from seeing other people play. Like, I would see other people play, and then I would be like, this is a pretty good deck. I wonder if I can copy it or maybe even improve it. So I will say thank you to everyone I've stolen text from.
One final request from iWindemon in the chat. Can you click on manage equipment and show the rows of protection set?
Sure. Wait, how do I do this?
You would go to like a character and just click
yeah, I see it. Sets, protection, so 7 swords, 11 helms, 5 chests, 3 necks, 3 rings, and 4 boots.
That's honestly not as much as I was expecting. I have a lot more than you, actually. That's...
Yeah, but they're all pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. Like, all of these pieces are pretty good.
Yeah, you have really good quality. Splendid. Okay, well, yeah, once again, thank you so much for your time, Ellifton. Thank you for showing your account and all of your knowledge and experience in this season. Hopefully next season we'll see you in the Hall of Fame, for real, for real. I will Photoshop AV out of it and put you in for this video, so thank you.
All right, thanks for having me, and have a good day, evening, morning, whatever you are.
Yeah, you have a good night. Thank you.
All right, peace.
Okay, bye. And there we have it, gentlemen. Our fucking GOAT, Ellifton, dude.